Han Minjae signed the final page without looking up. The black fountain pen moved once, clean and certain, beneath a contract meant to join the Han and Seo empires. Applause began around the council table. Then the double doors opened. Nadia Amani walked in wearing black with two girls beside her. Minjae's pen stopped against the paper. Yuna Seo had been watching those doors before anyone else. Security took one step forward. The younger girl pulled away from Nadia, crossed the polished floor, and placed a gold mourning seal beside Minjae's fresh signature. The sound was small, but every person in the chamber heard it. Minjae knew the seal. It had vanished on the day his brother was buried. The girl looked up at him with dark eyes that felt disturbingly familiar. Nadia did not introduce herself or the children. She told Minjae that his brother had warned her about this merger before his funeral. Then she glanced at the clock. "You have 11 minutes to stop this agreement from becoming irreversible." Chairman Seo's face tightened. Minjae looked from the seal to Nadia. Before he could ask his first question, the story fell backward 6 years. Nadia's voice had filled the Han Memorial Hall so completely that even the wealthy mourners had stopped shifting in their seats. She stood alone before Han Seojun's portrait, carrying the final hymn through the room without ornament or display. The last verse was approaching when the funeral director crossed the floor, reached for the microphone, and cut her voice off in front of everyone. He accused Nadia of stealing the Han family's ceremonial mourning seal. Then he tore her payment envelope in half and let the pieces fall near her shoes. Security closed around her. Nadia looked at the torn paper, then at the only man in the room, pretending the accusation was reasonable. Blaming the only black woman present was efficient, she said. It was not especially creative. Minjae had almost allowed security to remove her when Jae Park stepped between two guards with a sealed authorization. Seojun's private stamp was pressed into the wax. The instruction was simple. Nadia had personally chosen the funeral music, and nobody was permitted to interrupt her performance. The funeral director's certainty vanished. Minjae ordered the guards back and told Jae to verify every mark. Behind the memorial hall, Minjae opened the instructions Seojun had left for him. Someone had already removed the document that belonged inside. One handwritten sentence remained on the final sheet. "Do not sign the SEO merger." Jae verified the handwriting. Nadia watched Minjae read it twice. 6 years before the contract existed, his dead brother had already known what would be placed before him. Nadia explained that Seojun had insisted the final hymn carried more than mourning. He told her that finishing it exactly as arranged would protect something his family could not be trusted to hold. Minjae asked what that meant. Nadia admitted she did not know. Outside the chamber, Chairman Seo stood close enough to study their faces, but not close enough to see the warning in Minjae's hand. Before Minjae discovered what his brother had hidden inside that funeral, subscribe to Afro Korean Soulmates TV. Every subscription tells us that carefully crafted stories about dangerous love, betrayal, and impossible choices deserve to continue. Nadia had already been accused, Seojun's warning had been damaged, and someone inside the family was watching every move. The next discovery would prove that the funeral had never been only a funeral. Chairman Seo entered the private chapel, claiming he had come to calm the confusion. His attention went directly to the silver clasp on Nadia's music folio. For one unguarded second, fear crossed his face. Nadia saw it. Jae saw her see it. Seo recovered and blamed grief for making Minjae suspicious. Minjae said nothing. He simply moved the folio beyond Seo's reach. Minjae returned Nadia to the memorial hall and ordered everyone to let her finish. She began the final verse again, but the closing line carried a childhood name no one had used since Minjae was 12. His head lifted. Seojun alone had called him that. Nadia continued singing as confusion spread through the room. Minjae waited until the final note ended, then cleared the hall. Jae examined the music folio beneath the chapel lamp. The silver clasp was ordinary, but the reinforced spine was heavier than it should have been. He pressed the inner seam, and a narrow brass key dropped onto the table. Nadia stared at it as though it had appeared from her own skin. She had carried Seojun's secret through the funeral without knowing it was there. The key opened a concealed compartment behind the record cabinet in Seojun's private office. Minjae pulled the panel aside and found nothing inside. No ledger, no documents, no recording. Only a clean rectangle in the dust proved something had been removed recently. Jae checked the lock and found no damage. Whoever emptied the compartment either had another key or belonged inside the estate. A torn corner of a photograph lay beneath the cabinet. Minjae lifted it and saw Nadia standing beside Seojun months before the funeral. She was smiling at something outside the frame. Seojun looked alive, watchful, and familiar with her. Minjae's anger arrived before his grief could stop it. Nadia had allowed him to believe she met his brother only through the funeral arrangements. Minjae held up the photograph. "How many times have you lied to me?" Nadia's face hardened. "Seojun forbade me from explaining while a child remained in danger." The room seemed to narrow around that word. "Whose child?" Nadia refused to answer until she knew who had removed the evidence. Trust formed between them, then cracked before it could settle. Jay traced the first surviving payment connected to the funeral. One day before Seojun was buried, a shell company had transferred money to the funeral director. The payment order referred to recovering a silver folio and a family seal. The shell company led to Chairman Seo's private legal office. Nadia had not been accused because someone suspected her. She had been targeted because she carried both objects. Someone powerful had waited for her to bring them within reach. Nadia told Minjae that Seojun had approached her months before the funeral after hearing her repeat an unfamiliar melody from memory. Written messages kept disappearing, so he began hiding names, dates, and account patterns inside musical arrangements. Nadia could carry them without possessing a document anyone could steal. She agreed because Seojun said one frightened child would suffer if the information vanished. That child was the reason she accepted. Minjae asked whether she understood what she carried. Nadia said she understood only fragments. Seojun never trusted one person with the complete truth. He changed the arrangements whenever they met and warned her never to write the patterns down. Minjae heard the accusation beneath that method. His brother believed someone inside the Han estate could reach every desk, drawer, and private message. The suspicion landed harder than anger. Jay placed the funeral payment file beside the silver folio. The payment had not been random intimidation, it was an extraction order. Whoever arranged it knew the folio held part of Seojun's system and knew the mourning seal would authenticate what remained. Chairman Seo had financed the operation, but the undamaged compartment proved he had help from someone who could move through the estate without forcing a lock. That partner remained invisible. Nadia noticed that the transfer date matched the day Seojun canceled their final meeting. She remembered his voice on the telephone, calm but strained, telling her to sing the funeral arrangement exactly as written if anything happened. Minjae asked why she never reported the call. Powerful families rarely believe warnings from women they have already decided to distrust. Minjae had no answer. The account sequence hidden in the hymn led them to the Han music archive. Nadia reconstructed the altered notes while Jay compared each interval with Seojun's catalog. One pattern repeated around a storage position. Inside that slot sat an antique sound cylinder returned under the wrong category. Someone had hidden it carefully enough to escape a search, but not Nadia's memory. The discovery changed the room. Jay loaded the cylinder into the old player. Seojun's voice entered through static. The child must never be brought to the Han estate until the person controlling the family mail, security, and medical records is exposed. The recording ended before he named that person. Minjae stared at the silent machine. The danger was no longer outside the family gates, it was running the house. The warning changed Nadia's posture. Until then, she had protected the child from Chairman Seo. Now she understood Seojun feared someone with access to every private system inside his home. Minjae asked whether the child was safe. Nadia said yes too quickly. He noticed. She noticed him noticing. Neither trusted the other enough to move, yet both knew separation had become more dangerous than cooperation. Their alliance became unavoidable. Someone inside the merger room already knows more about Nadia's daughters than they admit. Tell us where you are watching from, what time it is there, and which character you trust least. The funeral director took money. Chairman Seo recognized the folio. Someone inside the Han estate emptied Seojun's compartment. Every answer had opened a more dangerous question, and the next record would make Minjae doubt the empire he inherited. The cylinder's final number led to an abandoned records vault beneath an older Han office. A damaged ledger waited on a metal table, with half its pages removed. The surviving entries showed Chairman Seo purchasing Han company debt through hidden businesses long before the crisis. He had not arrived later as a rescuer. He had helped create the weakness that would make his merger look necessary. Minjae finally understood the scale of the trap. He followed the entries from one shell company to another. Each purchase was small enough to avoid attention. but together they formed a trap around the Han Empire. Nadia found a pressure mark beneath a missing page, proof that another name had once been written beside Seo's. The ledger exposed the plan, while the missing pages protected the partner who opened the family doors. By dawn, Minjae stopped pretending grief was something he could manage like a company. On the rooftop garden, he admitted Seojun had left him responsibilities, enemies, and a chair no one wanted, but no explanation for living with the loss. Nadia told him power had made him excellent at giving orders and terrible at asking the questions that might save him. Minjae asked why she remained after his family humiliated her. Nadia looked across the waking city. The child has already lost enough adults to fear and pride. He heard the answer she did not give. She stayed because Seojun trusted her, but also because she no longer believed Minjae was beyond saving. The thought frightened him more than Seo's hidden accounts. A threatening message reached Nadia before sunrise. Surrender the folio, or watch the child lose everything. She agreed to take Minjae to her apartment. 3-year-old Lila was asleep in the side room beneath a folded blanket. Minjae saw the antique gold crest bracelet on her wrist and recognized the private symbol Seojun used on possessions he never intended the family to catalog. Is she Seojun's child? Nadia refused to confirm it. She said Seojun had appointed her as Lila's guardian and built protections that could collapse if the wrong person learned their relationship. Minjae hated the answer, but the fear in Nadia's eyes was real. For the first time, he understood her secrecy had been designed to keep Lila alive. In the kitchen, Minjae promised no one would take Lila from her. Nadia answered that powerful men often made promises without explaining what happened when they failed. He did not defend himself. He asked before touching her hand. That permission broke through more caution than any order could. Their first kiss was brief, restrained, and filled with everything neither was ready to name. Jae's call shattered the moment. Han's security vehicles were approaching under an internal emergency order. Minjae had issued no command. Nadia moved toward Lila before the call ended. Minjae stepped between her and the apartment door, no longer as the man investigating her, but as the man preparing to protect both of them from his household. Then the first security vehicle stopped below. The danger had arrived immediately. The first officers entered without knocking. Minjae ordered them to stop, but the team leader produced an emergency authorization carrying Han authority. Nadia pulled Lila behind her. Jae demanded to know who had issued the order. No one answered. The officers searched the apartment with the confidence of people who already knew what they intended to find. Inside Nadia's music case, an officer discovered missing Han documents wrapped beneath the folio lining. Another opened a kitchen cabinet and removed a sealed bank envelope Nadia had never seen. The evidence appeared too quickly and too neatly. Nadia stared at Minjae, waiting for him to notice. His face changed anyway. The frame-up had been designed for his grief. The bank record showed a large transfer from one of Chairman Seo's shell companies into an account bearing Nadia's name. Nadia read the dates once and pushed the page toward Minjae. The transfer supposedly happened weeks ago, but the account was opened this morning. Look carefully. Someone built this lie in a hurry. Chairman Seo called before Minjae could answer her. He claimed Nadia had used Seojun's death to gain access to the Han family, then sold what she learned. Minjae asked how Seo knew what security had found inside a private apartment. Seo avoided the question. Nadia heard only Minjae's side of the call, but she understood who was controlling the room. They brought Nadia to the Han Estate Grand Hall before the senior family members. Lila remained beside Jae under guard. The stolen documents, bank record, and silver folio were arranged on a table like trophies. Nadia stood alone in the center. Soon-hee looked at the evidence, then at her son. Leadership requires choosing what can survive. She warned that protecting Nadia would make the entire family appear compromised. Investors would flee, Seo would withdraw his support, and Lila's safety would collapse with the company. Her voice remained gentle, which made the pressure worse. Nadia realized Sun-hee was not asking Minjae to discover the truth. She was asking him to choose the version of it that preserved the Han name. Nadia told Minjae one last time to examine the dates. The person who planted those documents expects you to react before thinking. Minjae looked at her, wounded by every secret she had kept, and ordered the accusations handled privately. Then he told Nadia to leave the estate and never return. Her face did not break until she turned away. At the front doors, Nadia stopped long enough to look back. Minjae remained beneath the grand staircase, surrounded by people who had taught him that love was a weakness others could weaponize. She wanted to tell him about the possibility growing quietly inside her body, but the trust required for that confession was gone. She left with Lila and the silver folio. 3 weeks later, Nadia sat alone in a clinic waiting room with a closed medical folder on her knees. The doctor had confirmed the pregnancy. Joy arrived first, bright and terrifying. Then came the memory of Minjae telling her never to return. Nadia pressed one hand over the folder and decided he still deserved the truth, even if he no longer believed hers. She wrote the first letter that night. She explained the pregnancy, the false evidence, and the date error he had refused to examine. A second letter followed when the baby first moved. A third carried the clinic confirmation. Nadia sent each envelope to Minjae personally, refusing to let anger decide what their child would know about her father. Every letter reached the Han estate. None reached Minjae. In the restricted mail archive, each envelope was removed from the sorting table, tied with the others, and locked inside a cabinet beneath an authorization seal. The same hidden hand that controlled messages, security, and records now controlled Nadia's voice. Minjae received only silence and mistook it for abandonment. Nadia gave birth to Mara with Lila asleep against a waiting room chair outside. Years passed through small moments instead of speeches. 2 school uniforms hanging beside one another. Mara learning to sing before she could pronounce every word. Lila guarding Seojun's bracelet beneath her sleeve. Nadia performing at funerals, saving money, and collecting every fragment that could reopen the truth. Minjae spent those same years rebuilding the Han Empire. He searched for Nadia at first, then stopped when every trail ended. The family told him she had taken Seo's money and disappeared. He trained himself to believe it, because the alternative required admitting he had sent away the only person who asked him to think before obeying. The wound became discipline. 6 years after the funeral, Yoona Seo contacted Nadia from a private office high above Seoul. She did not offer sympathy. She placed a copy of the merger schedule on the table. Minjae signs in 2 days. Why would Chairman Seo's daughter help me stop her own family? My father has never confused family with ownership. Yoona revealed surveillance photographs proving Chairman Seo had monitored Nadia, Lila, and Mara for years. He knew where the girls attended school, where Nadia performed, and when she traveled. Nadia's fear became cold anger. Yoona admitted her father planned to remove her from Seo Group after the merger and blame her if investigators uncovered the financial trap. She gave Nadia an internal access credential and the payment order linking Chairman Seo to the funeral director. Nadia still did not trust her. Trust is unnecessary, Yoona said. He treated both of us as signatures waiting at the bottom of a page. It was the first honest thing either woman believed about the other. On the morning of the merger, Nadia dressed in the same black gown she had worn at Seojun's funeral. Lila carried the restored silver folio. Mara held the missing mourning seal inside both hands. Yoona's access credential opened the private corridor. As applause rose beyond the council chamber doors, Nadia looked at the girls. "Are you ready?" Both nodded. Nadia heard Minjae's fountain pen touch paper. 6 years of silence ended with that sound, and she pushed the doors open herself. Nadia stepped into the chamber before the applause finished. Minjae looked from her black funeral gown to Lila's silver folio, then to Mara's face. The resemblance struck him before reason could interfere. He ordered security to stand down. Nadia told him the girls were not witnesses dragged into a corporate dispute. They are the reason the merger was designed in the first place. Nobody spoke. Lila placed the restored folio on the table and opened its concealed lining. Inside were Seojun's guardianship record and the missing half of the damaged ledger. Jay examined the paper, seal, and archival coding. Each detail was authentic. Chairman Seo called the documents fabricated. Jay replied that forged evidence rarely aged correctly for 6 years. This time, nobody laughed. Seo's confidence had begun to crack. The surviving ledger pages showed the shell companies circling Han debt, but the restored pages named the private legal accounts that received the profits. Chairman Seo had not simply prepared to rescue the Han Empire. He had earned money from weakening it. Nadia watched Minjae absorb the truth. Every sacrifice he made to save the company had strengthened the man who created the crisis. Chairman Seo ordered Yoona to leave the chamber. Instead, she locked the doors with her executive authority and placed her copied account records beside Nadia's ledger. She revealed that her father planned to blame her if the merger drew criminal scrutiny. Seo called her ungrateful. Yoona looked directly at him. Gratitude is difficult when a father raises his daughter as an emergency signature with good posture. Yuna connected the funeral payment, the planted documents, and the false bank account to one private SEO office. The same office had purchased surveillance photographs of Nadia and both girls. Nadia had spent 6 years believing she had escaped notice. She had not. Chairman Seo knew where they lived, where they studied, and exactly when Mara was born. Minjae's attention snapped toward the child. Jae accessed the Han mail archive and displayed the delivery history without exposing the letters themselves. Every envelope Nadia sent had reached the estate. Each was redirected before reaching Minjae. The authorization belonged to Madame Han Sunhee. Minjae turned toward his mother slowly. Sunhee did not deny it. I intercepted the letters because Chairman Seo threatened Nadia and the unborn child. Why didn't you tell me? You had already chosen the family once. You would have endangered everyone by trying to reverse that choice. Nadia heard the cruelty hidden inside the calm explanation. Sunhee had decided Minjae was too weak to know his own child, then called the theft protection. Chairman Seo watched the family wound open and quietly checked the clock. Minjae faced Nadia. No more records. No more seals. Tell me the truth. Nadia placed one hand on Mara's shoulder. Mara is your daughter. Nothing in the chamber moved. Minjae looked at the child as 6 stolen years arrived all at once. Mara stared at him with the same dark brows he saw every morning in the mirror. Why didn't you answer the letters I helped Mahma keep in the blue box? Minjae lowered himself until they were at the same height, but no answer came. He had spent years believing Nadia chose silence. Now he understood silence had been chosen for them. Mara did not step closer. She held Nadia's hand and waited for the stranger who was her father to speak. Minjae finally asked about Lila. Nadia opened the sealed appendix inside Seojun's guardianship record. Lila was Seojun's biological daughter. Before disappearing, he placed a controlling block of Han shares in trust for her and named Nadia as guardian. Those shares had never entered the official estate. Without Lila's approval, the merger could not legally absorb the entire Han company. Chairman Seo told Lila that adults would decide what protected her future. Lila closed the folio. I will not sign anything. Her voice was quiet, but it ended his argument. Minjae tore the signature page from the agreement and ordered every transfer frozen. For the first time since Nadia entered, hope moved through the room. Chairman Seo remained seated and almost smiled. The public signature was ceremonial. The controlling transfer had already been approved through an emergency Han family proxy. Only one person possessed that authority. Jae checked the internal record, then looked toward Sunhee. She had authorized the transfer before the ceremony began. The 11-minute deadline had never depended on Minjae's pen. It depended on his mother's approval becoming permanent. Sunhee claimed she signed the proxy to trap Chairman Seo inside an agreement that could later expose him. Nadia stepped toward her. Did that strategy also require hiding a pregnancy, framing an innocent woman, and emptying Seojun's compartment? Sunhee's expression remained composed, but she did not answer. Minjae's voice dropped. Did you see Seojun's warning before the funeral? His mother looked toward the dark wall screen. The screen activated without anyone touching the controls. A thin Korean man appeared inside a dim, secure room. His hair had grown long, his face had aged, and a scar crossed his left temple. Minjae stopped breathing. Lila recognized the voice from the cylinder. Nadia's fingers opened and the gold mourning seal struck the table. Han Seojun was alive. Seojun looked directly into the camera. Minjae, listen carefully. Chairman Seo had exploited his disappearance, but he had not ordered the funeral. Someone else removed the evidence, controlled the estate systems, and prevented Seojun from reaching his daughter. Then Seojun said the sentence that emptied every face in the chamber. Our mother arranged my funeral while I was still alive. Minjae turned toward Sunhee. Her chair was empty. The private side door stood open. Jae traced the signal to a sealed medical level beneath the Han estate, but the rooms had been cleared minutes earlier using Sunhee's authority. Seojun's feed vanished. Nadia pulled both girls close as Minjae stared at the open door, realizing his brother may have been imprisoned beneath their home for 6 years. Comment Part 2. If you need the truth about Seojun's funeral.